Yeah, I know in Canada. House completed now. And so.
It's like amazing.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Dennis Cox, Topsham Public Works Director. Start out here then. Our list of department personnel. Nothing's really changed other than we've got positions that's open. Two of them. The Public Works Director, one person, that's myself. Our Deputy Director's position has been open, hasn't been, we only had a couple applicants. Probably about 6 months now. So we're looking forward to filling that. Foreman's position, one of those, and it's filled. Administrative assistant is filled. The mechanic is filled, and then we've got 6 truck driver labor positions with one still open. And then we've got 2 folks over from the Parks and Rec department under our review.
27. Page 27, if you're looking.
Highlights last year, update, we completed about 500 feet of storm drain pipe and additional basins in the Bay Park area. We're slowly but surely picking our way through that and trying to solve some of those drainage issues over there.
We thank you.
You're welcome. Again, that work was tied in because we were paving, so we talk about paving after Public Works gets things ready. So we crush the road and then the company comes in and pays behind us. Completed the design for the replacement of the 2 36-inch failing culverts on the Tedford Road. And a contractor has been chosen to do that work in the next fiscal year. So this year is the year that we hope to do that. So last year we designed it. You'll hear more about that in a couple of weeks for the bid results for that project and going out to bid with it. Last year was the engineering work, this year will be the construction work. Last year we purchased a new street sweeper and received a plow truck from the previous year first. So we're 2 years out to get a plow truck now. Assisted other departments with his work at the library, rec department, and solid waste department. We're always trying to help out if we can. Installed a new sidewalk in the section of the Mall Road and also installed the rain garden over there on the Mall Road. The rain garden was something that helped with our environmental DEP rules and regulations for the mall area with the sodium chloride contaminants. And finally, last year we did some paving on the park neighborhood, sections of Main Street out front, Mill Road, and Garden Lane. And part of last year's paving, we finished up the Arbor Avenue area. So, proposed budget changes. The first one, we're asking for $400 to add a cell phone, a 3rd cell phone in the department. We have one for Foreman, one for myself, and we're planning on budgeting one for the deputy director when it comes on board. We're asking for a reduction of $5,000 in the contractual area. That's an area that we use for paying for the security alarm, rags, and other work like that type of deal. We just aren't using it, so we're willing to reduce it. Not using it for road striping, we're increasing that by about $3,500. That's just due to the cost of the material bill. The paint cost is going up. Winter sand is shown here as a plus, but I believe it should be a minus. The minus.
Last one.
No, diesel's the last one. I'm looking at winter sand, it's going $5,000 increase.
Budget you actually had for that. 5,100. Paragraph in the budget.
Okay. I think it's okay. I'll make responsibility. It's a typo error, Colin. I apologize for that, but it should be a $5,500 decrease because it has been. We got sand left over from last year. We didn't use all of it because it wasn't as bad a winter as it had been. So we've got material left in the barn, so we're going to buy a little less this time around.
On the line item, it's fun. On the line item, it shows that correctly on page 27.
Yeah, I think this is just a typo error when I put the slides together. And finally, the last one for a change of the diesel line item, the diesel fuel cost, we're showing a $5,499 reduction there. Again, it's pretty much related to our winter activities. Last winter was less work, so we're looking to cut that to more of an actual figure. We hope to be, but that's a crystal ball that we all try to look at, and if it snows, it's still gonna go out and plow it anyway. Questions on that?
I have a general question. I was just wondering, you have the budget for cleaning up the roads like 196 and other roads that are covered in the dust, it obscures all the lines, the backlog and the side of the road, the middle of the road obscured by the dust and the sand. Don't you have to have money to clean all that up and into passes for that?
We do have funding for that. One of the things I just shared was that last year we purchased a new street sweeper. So we're able to take that piece of equipment with our manpower in the spring, and we spend somewhere around 4 to 6 weeks cleaning up after winter. Our work includes the sidewalks, the grass esplanade, tree belt area, and the roads itself. And we're trying to get that all swept out and cleaned up before we start our line painting. Yes, we do have a funding. This is the slide that I'd just like to show to help emphasize the cost comparison of paving a road and doing an overlay on it and trying to pinch pennies or save money and not do an overlay. If we wait too long, the cost to rehab a road. So left-hand side is the condition of the road. Across the bottom is the age of the road. So say Main Street out here, just take it for an instance here. We paved that this past summer. If you look at the bar graph, the graph there, excuse me, the line graph, we're good for about the next 5 to 10 years without doing really any maintenance out there. But if we hadn't paved that, after about 10 years, you can see how the slope increases drastically, and then the cost to do repair work increases. So that's the importance of making sure that we are maintaining our roads with hot top work, black top work. That's all that's trying to show there, just to understand that a little bit more. You know, like painting your house or doing major work if you don't maintain the maintenance to it.
How many times can you do an overlay before you have to redo the road, or can you just continually overlay?
No, it's a good question, Ryan. It really has to do with the type of road and what's on the edges. Say a curved road, so we're losing the reveal and the curvings. So we're good for probably 3 or 4 overlays before we'd have to go back, and then what we do is come in and mill off part of the road.
But you won't have to ever do the underlayment if you do it properly.
Correct. Correct.
So Dennis, if I read this correctly, let's go back to that one, please, quickly. So say if you were to, a good road for some reason do it, it's going to be almost 200,000 for a mile's worth of work, but we wait 10 to 15 years, it goes up about 2.5 times that. So am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
What's the cost if you have to build a brand new road, put the base in and everything? Or is that more of a crook function?
That would definitely be a crook function, and that's kind of a moving target right now because of material costs and labor costs.
So what is the big, I mean, obviously, asphalt's always been the biggest cost driver. Is that still true these days?
It's gone up, but not as quickly as labor costs have.
Okay, so that's the main cost driver these days, is labor?
The materials is part of it, but the good share of it is the people part. Right.
Dennis, we talked a little bit last time about, secondary sidewalks, how we have to rebuild some of the roads. Can you elaborate on that? What would need to be done?
Yep, over the Tedford Road, just to start out with, it's an older road for the town of Topsham. That's been around a long time, over 50 years. It's what we call a 2-rod road. By that, it only has about a 32-foot right of way. Most of our roads and most roads today are 50-foot right of way. Now, the purpose of the right of way is for the pavement itself, but also to supply the utilities on that road for the homes and the businesses that are on it, okay? So within the right of ways are the storm drains, the water lines, gas lines, things like that. Over on the Tedford Road, because it's only 32 feet, as we've looked into putting in a sidewalk on that road, we're only looking at putting it on one side because it is so narrow. Without going back and really taking and working through negotiations and buying property off the homeowners, and which can get into a hardship type of scenario. We're proposing to we're looking at proposing to put a sidewalk on just one side. The preliminary design right now is to have the sidewalk go in on the same side as the Topsham Crossing. Hemlock and Topsham Crossing itself are both on the same side, and that would be the side we put the sidewalk on, so we wouldn't have to put a crosswalk in. The work we're going to be doing this summer, which is in our current budget, to replace those two culverts on the end of the Tedford Road, will encompass enough length in that culvert to put in the width of the road to include that sidewalk. And remember, the culvert's running crossways, so if we make it long enough now, it'll take that sidewalk and the road width change. So we're trying to use the existing road as much as we can, but there are places that the road has to be brought over and lined up better to the right of way. There is an area that it's actually outside the right of way right now. It's in the area where the railroad crossing is, existing railroad crossing. So that's the preliminary in that right now. The final design isn't done yet, but probably this year we'll get through the engineering work on that, and then we're looking in the future year to do the construction part of that.
This is just for my information, but what determines whether a road will get a sidewalk? What's the determination? As I look at that, I know there's a lot of little houses up there, but what determines that?
Well, you folks.
So it's
We
the
all do.
request?
Right, we try to look at things. One of the things that I've been doing, working with the planning department, working with the head bike committee, the police chief.
Yeah.
We try and create some connectivity, connections
Right,
in town. We've got a lot of sidewalks that don't lead anywhere.
yeah,
And so it was important to us, we felt that now that we've got, take Village Drive up the mountain road.
Yeah.
And it's almost all public road all the way into the backside of the school.
yeah,
But we still can't hook up to the library or Bay
Right.
Park or Arbor Avenue.
right,
So by looking at Tedford Road as a connection road and that, and the Audubon Way, which is part of Village Drive now,
right,
those are the last two pieces of the puzzle really to get over towards Arbor and Bay Park for the residential areas
okay.
with children and adults.
I guess that's where I was going, because I know that there are ways to finagle your way down through there, but it's not really,
Direct.
right, yeah.
So that's the purpose. That's how we come up with the design. That's the purpose behind it, was trying to create a road that would help give us some connection.
Thank you.
Folks over there can get over to the mall using that. We've got lights and signal lights, and, 2 years ago, we did the walk on, Main Street. So we've increased the sidewalks on both sides of Main Street. Mountain Road has a walk on one side of it, and it's actually a 10-foot walk, so it's a multi-use type walk, so if we decide to go there with bikes and share it with bicycles or pedestrians both.
Thank you.
Good. Street paving, I just wanted to share that the current budget year, we still have some streets left to be done. Those are on the left-hand side, starting with Western Avenue and finishing up with Old Farm Road. That list is what's, we're planning on getting done by the, end of June. The proposed list is on the right-hand side in Old Augusta Road, Old Middlesex Road, Green Street, Cat Inch Road. We're only doing part of Cat Inch Road, really probably about a third of that, up through from, Middlesex to the railroad tracks. Forsyth Road, again, that's a portion of Forsyth Road. We could spend the whole budget on just one road, and that's not really the ideal situation, because I know that things tend to fail and we're playing catch up there. We're spreading the work out a little bit. Danielle Drive, Adams Landing, and Monument Drive. And we are looking at a reduction this year of about a couple $100,000, about a $200,000 reduction with a proposal of $500,000 in paving this year instead of the $650,000 that was been getting kind of historically for the last few years. We're getting caught up, we're doing well. The right thing to do, I think, right now, and help the town in other areas for finding too.
So that list on the right is what you guys are proposing to do this summer?
Correct, the proposal for 25-26. That would be effective, July 1st until June 30th of 2026. Yeah.
One of your examples, like Western Avenue, still not done. That's my street, but you did my end. The other end you left off because there's free sewer up there. And why did you get the new pavement side? That's my wife.
Right. We're trying to give that homeowner a chance to
Put a sewer line in.
make a decision before a 3-year moratorium goes in.
So,
Don't know how we're doing that, but we tried.
happy rent on.
That's similar to what we did out here on Main Street too, by the way. We held off as long as we could because of working with the developer across the street, that lot over there. He put in new sewer and water for that lot. That's why we held off until late this summer. It didn't want to be doing that with school, and then what we did. Public Works capital equipment, we're looking to purchase an equipment trailer. We talked a little bit about cleaning up after the winter was sweeping and stuff like that. We have a couple of smaller sweepers, like on our sidewalk machines, and rather than driving from the garage all the way out to West Merrill or Daniel Drive and David Drive, things like that, we'd like to be able to put them on a trailer. And we really don't have a trailer of quality to be able to do that. So that's the purpose of the equipment trailer. And we have a tailgate spreader. It's a unit that we use to do our shoulder work. When we get through paving a road, there's a lift of hot top, now a fresh sharp lift. We want to fill that in so tires don't roll off of it on vehicles and people run off the roads or things like that. It's kind of a safety issue. Our current unit won't fit. It's old, it's antiquated, and it's worn out. We need to buy a new one that will start fitting some of our newer equipment, our newer trucks. It mounts on the back of the truck is what this does. Our revenues, road opening permits, driveway permits, and miscellaneous revenue. They've increased because overall, that's what's happening out there for us. Their demand is going up. Demand for a lot of the driveway permits are new homes going in. The road opening permits, a lot of that has been the gas company doing work for homes with the natural gas installed. And also the water company doing a lot of water main and water lines to residents need replaced. And again, those are types of work that's getting done before we pave the road. We're working with the other utilities to get those installs done before we pave. The miscellaneous revenue really amounts to the school department and the salt sand that they buy from us. It's just a pass-through cost, but that's what that miscellaneous revenue is. The school buying sand to get to that. Finally, it's the other two accounts that I work with are street lights and signal lights. Signal lights are the traffic lights. Wow.
Is that for repairs or replacement or new one?
In both cases, well, no, the signal lights is for repair work only. The state does the capital improvements. The state will do the computer changes in the control boxes, the controllers and stuff like that, the state changes. Once they're done, then we have to do the maintenance on them. We run into problems with like some of these windstorms that the cameras that focus on the cars when they pull up to an intersection and turn lights and pick up on the signals. Those get moved around, and we also have problems with just breakdowns, electronics and things. Sometime in the next year or so, the state's supposed to come through and do a complete revamp of all the lights on 196. And it's a large enough upgrade that it's also including the lights in Brunswick. The DOT owns their lights for all cars. And it's in the neighborhood of about 40 signal lights. It's a huge project. We're looking forward to getting that. Yes.
Just, a thought just came to mind.
How many surveillance cameras does the town monitor? Any idea?
None.
I was gonna say.
Zero?
So those video detection system at the lights don't get recorded. So they'll know, they've got a certain amount of pixels that your car will trigger to turn the light, but those don't get stored anywhere.
Oh, okay, so there are no monitors on any cameras.
The only cameras we have on all are the ones that the chief has. There's a few in this building and some next door,
Okay.
but we don't have anything at intersections like you see in Boston or New York.
So I can blow through a light and not worry about it, or what?
Doing everybody else.
We'll let the chief address that one.
I'm saying, coming out of Highland Green onto 196, it seems like you're gonna wait 12 minutes.
And again, you're not the only one with that complaint, but I just want to share with you, the problem is the traffic flow through on 196.
Yeah,
The volume of traffic that we're trying to move up through there, and those lights are all sequentially connected.
yeah.
Been a camera watching traffic on Main Street down by the bridge, catching trucks on the bridge, DOT.
Yeah, there is, the state had people that were too heavy going over the bridge, so they do have a camera, the state police do something with it.
What you need,
We can catch up.
what we need to do,
So
Mark,
Big Brother's not in business yet.
Not optimal.
we put a camera there on the, coming off of the bypass down to Middlesex on the stop sign, so that every time a truck takes it out, you can charge them for repairing it, but it probably will pay for itself.
Big money, that one.
I don't know how many times I come by, it's like, yep, I think there's a code there, and there's the sign light on this.
I get it.
How about the way you would sell those signs, though, to help you get rid of the cost of that?
I'll just get an old car spring and just put it on there.
Well, we've got a breakaway with bolts, so
Right.
theoretically, the stub stays
Right.
still usable.
I understand that, so.
But that is an area that's getting expensive.
Yeah, well, how many times, off the top of your head, how many times in a year do you think, or you would replace, you have to go?
It's been done 6 times at Forsyth Road and Elm Street this winter, and winter's not over.
Right.
It's very frustrating for us doing the lights, doing the time. They got taken out this past weekend. Oh, huh. It's not there right now.
Well, maybe-
One of the 2 iron signs aren't there right now. It's in my garage. Waiting to get put back
We're
on.
gonna get a sign,
Can I just, and I just wanted to say how, and this is my 3rd year sitting on the finance committee. And I just so appreciate the common sense and the care that all the departments do, but I think it's amazing to me when you're putting back 5,000, and I know that for some towns that probably doesn't seem a lot, but I worked a lot in Auburn and with it, and I so appreciate the common sense and the care that you put into developing these budgets, because there are real people behind the numbers, and I know that you all appreciate that, so thank you for the hard work.
All right, well, I'll make a comment. I sat on this committee for the first time in 2009. Our road budget was $200,000 at that time. That won't even buy us a mile today.
Right, yeah.
That was good too.
We were the pushers to get those roads, us and Gail, get those roads up to stop and get a budget so we could do it, so they'll which we should be doing. What do the citizens of Topsham use the most? Roads. Every citizen has to use the road.
Right, but a lot of our traffic is passed through also.
I know it is, but I'm just saying, for your tax bucks.
All good? All right. Mark Hagan, I'm the police chief, and I don't have any money for cameras. We're on board if you guys don't want to put it in here, so, we could put some over to Topsham Fair Mall area, so we help get some of our thieves.
Yeah.
Here, that'd be much appreciated.
And how about the people that run the red lights?
We'll go after them too. All right. The state actually doesn't necessarily like that, but, we'll do whatever we want to do, right? So, all right, and I'll try to keep on track here. So, we'll start with our staffing, 17 people. We added the second detective last year. You'll notice we have 1 K-9 officer. We're hoping by, August to have 2, if everything goes well. We have 2 sworn part-time law enforcement officers. And we hadn't budgeted for part-time reserve officers up until this year. The reason being, the state's pretty much trying to go away for liability reasons from having reserve officers. It's tough enough for everybody to keep up with the training, all the new trainings that we have to do every year. And then you take an officer that, let's say, is an electrician or something, you know, somebody's doing some other type of work for 40 to 50 hours a week. And then they come in on a weekend to do reserve work. It's tough to keep them up on all the training. But what happened here was a couple of years ago, we had an officer from an area department that had some spare time and they wanted to come work for us. They're already trained, they're already certified, so we brought them on. And they haven't been able to work, they weren't able to work this past year because of some personal issues, but they plan on working for us again this year. And then we had an officer that we hired in 2023, graduated from the academy in December of 23. And then once we hit last year, they decided to use their GI Bill and have gone back to school full time. But we've already got the investment as far as we've already sent them to the academy. We've already purchased all the uniforms, staying in the area. So they agreed to just work for us part-time whenever we need it, whenever they can. So we already had the investment out there, so we kept them on as part-time. And this year, we've been taking their money out of just our regular officers, full-time officers, but it makes more sense and it's cleaner to have a little more money in the reserve and the part-time, so that there's a little bit of an increase there. But this is our personnel for right now. Sorry, I missed the training on PowerPoint before. I think you've seen this before, roughly 91% of our budget is committed to personnel, wages, benefits, and other contractual items. So the remaining we put towards our expenses, towards the repair and maintenance of vehicles, purchase of equipment, as well as training and service agreements that we have for things such as our body worn cameras, cruiser cameras, and radar units and so forth, tasers as well. First line is our professional equipment that I'm highlighting here. And there's a significant increase this year, a $7,500 increase. And where that is coming from is when I started here, we started a contract with Taser to purchase some tasers. All the officers carry tasers, and the contract just is going to expire. We just made our last payment, so the contract is going to expire in November of this year. While we had that 5-year contract, the company Axon, which has designed and owns the Taser rights, they have gone through 2 separate models. So they are really the only game in town. They are what is considered the industry standard. So you ask, why has the price gone up? Because they can, to be honest with you.
Because they're a monopoly.
Yes, sir. That is it. And they're the industry standard. So we had to, we've moved up to the new Taser. Ours are no longer, they won't service the Tasers that we're carrying right now. So luckily, knock on wood here, none of them have broken, but what we need to do is purchase new Tasers. So the price went up about $8,600. We're increasing the budget line here by $7,500 to cover the cost. We'll cover the rest in what less we buy, but we're looking to start a new contract in this coming year.
Chief, you talked about how the tasers were such a useful tool in the
yeah, so they were very useful. I'm sure you all know about the shooting that we just had. And initially, I can talk about this part. When the officers initially showed up, nobody knew what was going to happen because of the way the subject had called the dispatch center. When officers got there, immediately, they weren't out of the car, probably 10 seconds. Subject, pulled a weapon and started running at the officers. So they fired using their handguns, which is the way we're trained. And the subject fell to the ground. However, he immediately got up to his knees and started crawling at the officers, still swinging the weapon. So we'll talk about it a little bit more with the training that comes up on another slide. But their training kicked in and they de-escalated and they dropped because now he was less mobile. And they immediately saw that he was less mobile. They dropped from the firearms and went to the tasers. Now, the issue they had there is, it's winter time. People think that tasers are the end all, and we've received a few rude comments about basically why the officer should have tased this person. And what people don't understand is in the winter, we're wearing big jackets. The tasers that we're using now, what happens is they fire two probes out. And what you try to do is you try to get one in the upper body above the belt line, one below the body in the lower. And it locks up the muscles, which makes people fall. Gives you 5 seconds, time to move in and handcuff the person. But what happened in this case, he's got a jacket, it's I think 1:30 in the morning. He's running at the officers and it took several shots from the taser before they were able to incapacitate him. But the tasers came in handy here because they were able to, first of all, de-escalate to go to the taser. And the taser kept them from having to actually shoot the firearm because he still had a weapon and he was still swinging it. So it gave the officers time. So I know when you look at the numbers, trust me, because I look at the numbers, the tasers are expensive, but compared to the lawsuits and the loss of life and the other issues that we deal with because of these shootings, I gotta tell you, it really is, they're worth their weight in gold. So. K9 costs come out of here. Pretty much everything we're buying new for new equipment is coming out of here. This year, we all carry batons and, you know, we all have batons like this that you can swing and they open up. We haven't trained in these in a couple of years. Pretty much anything we carry on our person, we have to train in all the time for liability issues. So we need to do a lot of training. We have to buy some pads for these this year so the officers can practice. Just like defensive tactics was a big thing last year. And we had to get a couple officers trained as instructors for defensive tactics. Because we're going hands-on most of the time. If we're using force, it's usually hands-on, thankfully. And we're fortunate that way. So, but yeah, so this is the reason for our increase here in professional equipment. It's the class, sorry. I'll be here earlier next time. In-car body worn camera system, it's $19,000 a year. We also have a 5-year contract for these. I think you've seen all the officers wear them. They're in our uniforms, in our outer jackets. It's basically a cell phone. I'm not sure if you've all seen one. I can show you all what it is if you haven't seen one. This one isn't on, but I did bring it in case there was any trouble from any of you tonight. But
You can aim the camera at Jeff. We'll be.
Yeah. So it just,
Oh,
the reason we have, if you watch Cops or something like that a lot, you'll see that they have a camera on the outside and usually on the lapel or something or on a jacket. But what happens is when you see them get in a foot chase or in a fight or something, next thing you know, you just see a camera staring up at the sky. So we went with this program because it's locked right in. It snaps into our into the uniforms or into the jacket, and then you get the camera on the outside. So the officers can do anything, and the camera's not going anywhere. But it's basically, and it just snaps in like that. But it's basically a cell phone. If anybody just wants to hand it around, I don't have it on. But,
Is that on all the time they're wearing it? Or
yeah, and yes, and then what happens is, if we have sensors in our holster. So if you pull a weapon out of the holster, the sensor comes on and it goes back 30 seconds. If you get out of your cruiser and your light bar is on, it automatically makes it go on 30 seconds back. If you go a certain speed in our cruisers, it automatically kicks on. So there's a lot of automatics with this because under stress, officers don't have time. Like what ended up turning into a shooting, they got out just thinking they needed to talk to somebody, didn't know what was going on. And they would not have had time to put it on, but once they got out and pulled their holster, it rolled back 30 seconds. So they're always running. It's like a passive thing. They're always running, but then once you engage it, it goes back 30 seconds. So, yes. So it costs us $19,000 for that. But, you know, when I talk about something that's worth its weight in gold, as far as complaint, thankfully, this is only our second shooting. I got here in 40 years, but if we break that one, then we gotta pay.
And that's- I love another nice 20,000, stop it.
Right,
Just testing, just testing.
what we do get is, you know, eventually, we get the inevitable complaints. You know, I probably get about one a month. And, the cameras are awesome because
Right.
they're on constantly. And every time so far, knock on wood, that I've been here and had a complaint, I told the person, hey, you know, we have cameras in the car and we have them on our person. So why don't you come on in and we'll watch it and we'll see if the officer actually called you a racist name or was rude and so forth. And the phone always goes quiet and well, I'm kind of busy. I didn't want to cause them any trouble. And I've yet to have anybody come in. So as much, I'll be honest, as nervous as our officers were when we started the camera system a few years ago, it is, they all realize now. And the two shootings, you know, after the video, the complaints. It's been well over less than we have 2 more years of this camera system well on the contract. Uniforms and equipment, this is one of those costs that we were talking about earlier that it's set in the contract. So every officer gets $900 annually to purchase equipment, uniforms. It costs us, if we hire a new officer, about $5,000 to equip them from boots all the way up through outer jackets and so forth.
I have a question concerning uniforms. So the officers get $900 annually. So what are they buying for that $900? You're buying them like new blouses, new trousers?
Yep, pants, jackets, shirts, flashlights, you know, yeah, you know, hats. The stuff that we're wearing, and it's easy for me, I don't have to buy as often because, you know, I'm in my office most of the time, but they're out there in these snowstorms. You know, Dennis keeps salting the roads so their boots look like heck and it's salt through them.
Well, I guess my question is, well, two things. So do they just get that and they don't spend it all, they keep it, or is that?
If they don't spend it, it goes back to the town.
True, and I was just also wondering, because I'm just like, you know, basically my many years in the Navy, it's just like you needed something, you just told someone you needed it and it got ordered for you and you got it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we weren't, well, we got uniform allowances too, but that was just for basic, you know, shirts and stuff like that. But for equipment, you know, usually who you're attached to will supply it to you. You say, I need, you know, boots, new flashlights, a new belt.
Yeah.
Put the rec in, town buys it for you, procures it, and you're gone, so.
And quite a lot of PDs used to do that. The problem is, then every time somebody like, you know, we have 17, but a lot of PDs are bigger. Every time somebody wants to order something, if they had to come to me, let's say,
Correct.
and go, well, this is worn. And I'm like, well, you could get a little longer. You know, we're trusting them to walk around every day with guns. So I'd like to think that they know when they need new equipment.
Right.
Now, with that being said, what was it, Ronald Reagan that said trust but verify? So when they do the purchases, I look at all the purchases.
Yeah.
To just to make sure nobody's buying new fishing rods or anything like that. Not that anybody would, but we'd like to.
Not in Topsham.
So,
I have a question, it's not really, finance, I guess, but has there been an uptick in store theft? Is that what I got from you when you?
oh, yes.
So
Yes.
that seems to be nationwide, huh?
Yeah,
And is there? There seems to be, from what I understand, that a reluctance to actually stop them at the door. Is that also a true statement?
yep. So two different things. One is there's a lot of commercial rooms now that there's big money in it. And so we deal with, because we have Home Depot, we deal with individuals that are part of larger groups that travel up and down the East Coast. committee that's a big range, you know, a lot of funding, a lot of cost to the stores. What has happened in stores like Home Depot, however, and Target is in the past across the country, employee has approached people and tried to stop them. And they've been injured, a lot of them seriously injured, killed. So the corporations have decided what they pay out for workplace injuries, it's not worth the alternative of somebody with a $200 drill, something along those lines. So they have changed and have told their people not to approach, try to get a plate if you can, and go from there. So we got there's people making a lot of money going up and down the coast doing that. You know, on top of that, people now know this. So a few months ago, we had an issue at Home Depot. 2 people went in and walked right out with a cart full of power tools. And the loss prevention officer was there and he ran out after them. And the whole time the woman it was a man and a woman, was berating him going, "You can't touch me, you can't touch me, you touch me, you're gonna lose your job, I'm gonna sue." The whole way to the cart, they didn't even stop pushing the cart and run. They went to the vehicle, so they know, people know what's going on.
So if I may just ask, so I think Mainers are known to be good bystanders for the most part, but I mean, that is kind of makes me not want to be a good helper or to stop. So are you getting any problems from people trying to be helpful in stopping?
No, and to be honest, if anybody asked me, I would just say, try to be a good witness, get a plate number, because it's not, a lot of these people that are stealing are drug users. And if they really need a fix, you don't know how violent people can be. You know, we're dealing with a lot of different people in the area. As far as the people that are coming here to steal in big numbers are coming from inland a little bit, or they're coming from out of state and going up and down the coast. And you just don't know if somebody's carrying a firearm. You don't know what people are carrying. So as much as it's irritating for us when the store doesn't call us for 5 minutes after because we'd like to get them, they're gone. I get why they're doing it. It's just frustrating because we want to be able to. We want to
Just so you mentioned Target first. Most of the they only have like one cashier for the whole big store. Doesn't that make an impact on your problems with security? Huge. Why do they do that? How do they
saving money? They're saving money by not paying people to be at each register.
Well,
That's.
Can't we pass some kind of regulation since it's in a town to make them do that?
That's why Market Basket has somebody at every register.
That's what I'm asking.
It keeps down their.
I asked one management about Target, and a lot of it is, truthfully, people don't want to work, they can't staff, and they're calling out every day, 2 or 3 cashiers. Saturday, they said, I forget how many called out. So that's happening as well. So it's just people not wanting to participate and they're calling in sick, and maybe they are, but when you have, they said it's very often, it's just really hard to keep up.
Dennis mentioned it earlier, labor costs are going up
Right.
because people are demanding more and more money.
Right,
Because these stores have to pay it to get people back in.
That's
there.
right.
So,
you have
yeah.
to cut somewhere.
I don't know about the cameras in the stores in Topsham, but I know, for example, the Walmart in Brunswick has extensive cameras at every register outside of the parking lot. They can track a person through the whole store.
Yeah, they're in the
So
aisles.
my question is,
With beeping at you.
Kenny, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Are there cameras that are finding people guilty of these things? Are they able, like I saw a picture on the Facebook page for the Topsham Police saying, do you know who this person is? It was at a CVS.
A lot
So
of
does that stuff help?
A lot of the stores are getting better as the years go on, because even they're getting to the point where they need to do something, so they're investing in cameras a lot more.
I'm sorry, William, I couldn't
Yeah,
understand your comment.
You're big mention about Walmart. I mean, Walmart's got them right in the aisles beeping at you, you saying, yeah, we're looking at you.
Yeah.
You know, it works, but
And then it takes us a longer time to track people down when we do get them on cameras, because if we're lucky enough to get the vehicle they're in, most of them aren't from Topsom. I'm not saying we don't have our issues, but then let's say they're from Lewiston or Auburn. And then we get a plate and then we call the house and nobody will answer. And so then we call them and say, we're gonna have to get a warrant for you. Then we get the warrant, then we gotta try to serve the warrant. People don't answer the phone, we give it to Lewiston or Auburn, and they'll try to serve it at the house. It's an extent, it used to be,
Right.
a long time ago, you just caught somebody in the store, gave them a summons, and that was it until the court date. Now, our officers are spending a lot of time trying to track people down. It's a lot of, officer hours, just trying to find people, writing up warrants and, what it is now.
Do we have much trafficking of drugs in
Yes.
Topsom?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's
It's
getting
growing.
worse, it's
Yeah.
growing again. We had a meeting last week here, actually, and there was an officer from the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency that was giving us a heads up on how it's been
Yeah.
continuing to grow. A lot of people out of New York and Boston coming up our way.
Yeah.
But he actually complimented our officers. We did a training 6 months ago. We got a lot of young officers and we trained them. We had actually MDA come in and do a training on what to be looking for in traffic stops. And he told us the other day it's paying off for at least Topsom. There were a lot of the chiefs there, so I was happy to hear it. He threw it out to us, but our officers have been getting a lot more drugs on the traffic stop. So, but there's a pretty significant issue ongoing. And now the latest trend is it's not just one person selling. What they'll do is we'll have a group out of, let's say, Boston. They just got a group out of Boston, which is right up in Newcastle area, and they'll come over and they'll come in and take over a whole house. There'll be a
Right,
local
yeah.
person that they'll have sell all the drugs, but they'll bring up several people and they live in that house with the person and they just bring the drugs up, but they have a local person do it and they try to stay out of the way. But it's kind of a threat, so nobody will try to rip that person off because they're usually well armed.
Right.
And so they'll just have the local person sell it, but they're bringing it up and crashing it.
I heard in Lisbon, there was like 20 people in one house.
Yeah, I heard about that one. Yeah, so knock on wood, we haven't had that in town that we know of yet, but we're trying to keep an eye out.
So they're coming up from New York, Boston, et cetera, the bulk, and then procure a house and then selling it locally?
Yeah.
To local consumers?
Yeah.
Okay.
And because, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but we're having trouble when we arrest locals and saying, where are you getting the drugs, and working with us, because right now, different district attorneys in the state have different opinions on charging people.
Yeah.
And what is happening is people tend to know, I don't need to talk to you. They used to talk to us because they knew something was hanging over their head. There's a lot of diversion. People going to jail now. So they're like, why should I tell you, worry about these guys out of Boston that I know have guns, when charges are probably gonna get dropped or minimized as well.
Right.
So we're also dealing with that.
Yeah, so it's just like Home Depot. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna.
Yeah.
No one knows. It's like, yeah, they play it straight, then the odds of them getting away with it are better. Yeah. And when people wonder why we have problems in society, it's just like, yeah. And then you get a district attorney who wants to be aggressive. Now that's a problem too, right? You never find a happy spot.
Yeah, it's frustrating for us, trust me, because we hear it from the victims all the time, and we're not gonna sit there and badmouth particular people, so it's like we're doing our best, but that's obviously not
I'll
gonna be
do
good
it
enough
for
if
you.
you're a victim, though. So,
That's crazy. I mean, it's gonna reach a boiling point. Something's gonna give.
I'll move on to vehicle maintenance. So we have 12 vehicles, 8 are fully marked. Our vehicle maintenance budget went up by 1,500 this year just because everybody's paying more for labor and parts and equipment are going up. I just throw this up here to show you, 4 dealerships are charging $169 an hour right now. So our costs are going up. We use a local business whenever possible. It's a local family-owned business right over here across the street, so they treat us very well when we bring something in. They get us in immediately, so our cars don't have a lot of downtime, and they can handle quite a bit. So we try to stay local when we can with that. Fuel costs, our fuel costs are going up about $8,000 this year. And the reason basically for that is we're estimating a $2,500 gallon increase. We've been 3 officers down for almost a year. And I think we're gonna get those spots filled, and 3 extra officers driving around is gonna cost a couple more miles on our cars. So that's the reason behind the increase in fuel costs. Training, I've said this since I got here. We use a risk management approach. We sit there continually in our staff meetings and talk about what can go wrong, and then we try to avoid it by dealing with training. Again, that shooting that we had, when all the facts come out, everybody will see that the officers' training kicked in, everything from firearms to the de-escalation that we trained everybody, even just the way they spoke to the subject. It's amazing. You know, it's like they were speaking to him like I am to you. And imagine, somebody coming at you with a machete, but they were speaking like this. I can't say enough about the officers. And, we had also, if you didn't see on our Facebook, New Year's Eve, we had the officer that rescued somebody that was about to take their own life on the bridge. When he spoke. So this all comes back to our training and the way that we're training the officers. So that's our approach. We try to look at what is going to cost us in the long run from a risk management, what's going to cost the town, and that's the way we're approaching it. So, in addition to that, we do the verbal judo. We have mental health awareness. I'm sure everybody's seen a lot of our calls, if not the vast majority, are related to mental health issues. So we do a lot of mental health awareness training with our officers. Less lethal munitions, which is every car has a shotgun in it that can shoot. Basically, it's like a sock round that we can shoot just at somebody to try to avoid using our firearms. Thing is, they're in the trunk, we have to keep them locked up. And because people have asked me, why didn't you use them on that subject? The officers get out of the car and didn't have time to go get them when the subject's running out there. Critical incident review team. So after a shooting like we had, we have to put a critical incident review team that includes other law enforcement chiefs, somebody from the state police. We have a clinical psychologist that has to come in, as well as a citizen. And when they looked at our shooting that we had 3 years ago, the one thing that they all said was that they praised our approach to training and the level of training that our officers have for a small department. So sometimes I've heard, well, you guys spend a lot on training. Yeah, and there's a reason for that. And the number that we put towards training is infantile compared to what we would be spending shootings, injuries, so forth, lawsuits if we didn't do that. We also do you'll see it's called Dago Law and Dago Safety. Those are online training programs. The Dago Law one is a gentleman named Eric Daigle out of Connecticut. He's considered the country's leading expert when it comes to police departments and risk management. And we signed up for this program a few years back. And what he does is our officers get every week. So we get 52 a year. It's anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes talking about the latest trend in law enforcement that's causing lawsuits and what the courts are saying. So it's state-of-the-art training that we get just on the computer. We have Dago Safety for the annual one package and fire exposure and so forth. The remainder of the money goes towards individual training. And that's one of the things, although we've had trouble with recruiting, that's how we try to keep our officers. If we get them in the door, I always ask our officers to give me 4 years. And in that time, we show them all the training that we will give them and what we invest in them. And, we don't lose so many because of that. If people, officers want training, they don't want to be out there without having some type of training to keep them out of trouble. So we focus the rest on, like, we have an officer that's about to go to drug recognition school, which is not an inexpensive school, but we have so much. We have such an increase in drug issues right now, between the marijuana, the methamphetamine has become big again. We need an officer that's trained on how to notice that people are under the influence, and there's a whole science to it. And so this officer will be going to training next month, and then the month after that, we'll actually send them to Florida. What they used to do is they would have all the officers that were trained in drug recognition go down to, let's say, Cumberland County Jail. But you have to get so many tests on so many people that are under cocaine, cocaine, or methamphetamine, and various other drugs. So it used to take months before the officers could get all the training that they needed. And we can send them to Baltimore. We send somebody to Baltimore. This time they're gonna be going down to Florida, and they can
In
get
2
it.
hours, it's all done.
So,
Within 2 hours, it's all done.
yeah, and as bad as people might think we have it, this place is so much worse. So we'll send them there in a weekend, so we have to pay for the plane tickets and so forth. But they'll come back and they will have seen more than they'll probably ever see up here as far as some of the issues. So those are the kind of things our training goes to, our training money goes to, defensive tactics. We had to send 2 officers to defensive tactics last year. The new tasers that we're gonna get, we're gonna have 2 officers go to get trained as an instructor on that. And that's $500 each. So, and Maine Criminal Justice Academy went up from 3,000 to 3,500 to send an officer there last year too. So that's where mine too. I live in town, so that's where our money's going on that. I'll talk briefly about the Comfort Dog program. It's not really an issue yet, but I should have put some pictures of puppies or something.
Yeah.
This actually doesn't need to be in here because this shouldn't be costing the town any money. As I think you all know, the American Legion came to us and wanted to provide the funding for a comfort dog for us to purchase. And so they wanted to know if we'd accept the money, and I was like, yes, we will happily accept the money. And they have raised $6,000 for this dog. We met with other agencies, talked to several agencies that have comfort dogs, and they gave us all their numbers. It's roughly $10,000 to start up the program. The American Legion has come up with the initial 6, and now the Saginaw County next month should be approving opioid settlement money that will be going to us, and they're going to give us, I think, 7, which will cover the rest of the cost for the dog, as well as money set aside for the next 2 years for food, training, veterinary bills. We've also had Androscoggin Veterinary Hospital loves the idea of this program that we're talking about. So they are going to give us apparently a very nice discount on all the costs for the dog. They're willing to take care of all that.
Can you give us an example of what a comfort dog would be used?
Comfort dog will be used, so it's going to the school resource officer. Officer Matthew is going to take a comfort dog. So she'll have it every day in the school system with her. And there's a lot of kids in there that necessarily feel like they fit in or have anxiety. So she'll be going into the classes with that dog. In addition, we have a lot of adult and child victims of various crimes. And what all the other agencies do, which is what we'll be doing, is they bring the dog in maybe before an interview or after an interview, and just have the person, the victim, meet with the dog, and just, who doesn't like, a nice well-trained dog that's not jumping on you, that just sits there, and it gives them a chance to pet it. And studies have shown how much calmer people will be when that happens. In addition to that, I can tell you, and I think probably the fire department can tell you, it wouldn't hurt for our first responders to have a little comfort dog walking around the station every once in a while as well. Something to just calm up, our first responders, our personnel, get on a little bit. And also community engagement. We're very big on wherever we can get into the community, we're out there. And so we'll be able to bring, him to, we're looking for a male. So, we'll be able to bring him to any type of community engagement that we have. So we're very excited about the program. I have been here, the startup costs are roughly 10,000, recurring costs roughly 2,800. But right now, it looks like at least 2 years we'll have funding for the dog.
Thank you for explaining.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the assistant town manager needing this yet?
His leadership sometimes makes him want the dog. I don't know about it, but that's how I place to talk about it.
I substitute for the Durham school system and they have a comfort dog. And it's amazing what happens in a room where there's some agitated children when you bring them in, because there's an expectation that you have to be quiet and calm around the dog. So it's just like the temperature just goes down in the room unbelievably quick. So I love that idea. Yeah.
And from talking to the people that already are in the schools, which Maine is way behind the curve with this.
Yeah.
You talk to any of the departments down in Massachusetts and the rest of New England, they said it's amazing, you'd have to see it.
Yeah.
That's why I did put on here, you can't really quantify with numbers.
No.
And I know that's, the towns are about a lot of municipalities, but it would be hard to give you numbers to say how this is going to help people. What we are gonna do with some of the money that is being donated, and I got this from York PD, is they had the little stuffed animals made up with the dog that they have.
Yeah.
And when they meet with a child victim, they're like, Ranger can't go in there with you today. But what we're gonna do is they give them a little stuffed animal, which is a Ranger.
Yeah.
Like you can bring him in to the
That's
and so forth. So it, lowers the trauma. We're going through a Bloomfield Labradors is the kennel that we're looking at using. They're down in New Hampshire. They specialize in English labs.
Nice.
And they have been using, they're one of the primary people that agencies are going to in New England. And they're very careful with their canines, not every dog, it's not a mill.
Right.
They're very careful with which dogs they send out. And they're also very careful, which I appreciate, with who gets the dog. In fact, they have told me they will come up and interview me and the handler to make sure that they approve it. I was like, great, that's awesome. So.
Is there a particular reason you're going for a male dog versus, kind of sounds like sex?
Yes, so,
Just checking.
what the other agencies have told me is the female dogs have to have, a more invasive surgery. And it makes them down longer, where the towns aren't getting as much time out in the public with the dogs. So that was the primary reason. And they said for whatever reason, Bloomfield does pick more males to put out there in the law enforcement agencies. And what they do, it's actually very nice. What they do with the dogs that don't go to law enforcement agencies is they donate them to public libraries or various institutions. So anything that isn't quite to the law enforcement level as far as calmness goes, they're still getting out into the community, which is nice. And they ran me through some of the tests. They were telling me what the tests are that they use for the dog, to make sure it's a nice calm dog, not one that's gonna be running around getting very excited and so forth. So yeah, it is pretty amazing.
You get the name of the dog?
No, I don't know how we're gonna go about that. yet. We gotta figure out a good,
Town sign.
Put it
Yeah,
down as a
exactly.
town sign.
Next on the town sign.
yeah. So, good, be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah.
Asking people, you're gonna get a lot of choices.
So just pick 3 and then just let them vote.
Capital expenditures, we only have one big one this year, which is one cruiser, so I think you all know at this point, what we've been doing is 2 cars one year, 1 car the next year, and that's the way it's kept our vehicles in a manageable position. last year, the winning bid for a cruiser was 44,990, so basically 45,000. And to get that, however, we purchased two leftover 2023s. And they were telling us last year, they're like, well, you can have these that are already on the lot, or the new price in the fall of last year was going up anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 for the cars that they didn't have yet. So it seemed like a no-brainer to me. Plus, they were telling us that the vehicles would be plus or minus 6 months. And my officers don't notice a 23 from a 25. They weren't that worried about it. So the breakdown is we put about 65,000 in there. Cars, we budget 50,000 for the car and then 15,000 roughly for all the equipment that goes into it, the labor costs. And just the light bar alone is $3,000. Just in case anybody was wondering. So lettering the cars and so forth. So that's the one capital expenditure. The other two we have put into that are considered capital expenditures, but we put them in the regular budget, and the taser contract that we already talked about, as well as the body worn and the cruiser cameras. There's some questions.
I just have a comment, if you don't mind. The young man that had the machete and that went after our offices is my neighbor, and his parents are wonderful, wonderful people. And he grew up in our neighborhood. We had him work for us around the house and at our business, and I don't know what happened to, and I also heard the officers did a good job, so I mean, just to put it out there, but it's very sad if there was a psychotic event that I don't know what happened to him, but anyway, I don't have to know what happened to him, but it really bothered our whole neighborhood.
If people knew how many people are struggling, you know, it's
Right.
roughly, I think, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna have to have the number, I don't know if the Joe does, but the number of people in the United States that have some type of mental health issue versus, I think it's less than 10% that actually seek treatment.
Yeah.
So everybody else is out there, and the problem has been since COVID, if you want to seek treatment, finding somebody to talk to is also an issue, which is why a lot of places now are doing just telehealth type of conversations and so forth. So you call, talk to somebody, whether they're in Maine or New Jersey or Ohio or whatever, but I know me, I would want to talk to somebody in person. I don't like all the
Right.
everything that, I don't know how you read a room or read a person when you're looking at a screen, so.
Especially if
a
they
lot of
have
people
an
are hesitant.
issues,
I'm sorry.
especially if they have an issue, if they need that person.
Yeah.
Not a picture on the
Yeah,
screen. It's
exactly.
great that they're doing things like that, because people aren't available, the medical just aren't available, but from what you're seeing across the United States, it's just terrible. You just,
Yeah,
and that's one instance that was close to home.
yeah, and generally what happens is people say, well, they should have training, the officers either shouldn't be the first responder or should have more training. And the problem is, the people that do have more training than us, first of all, we're constantly training them. We're just constantly training them. I don't know if we could have enough training. And then the other issue that we deal with is, we're fine if you wanted suites or other mental health institutions responding to these calls.
Right.
But most of these calls are happening in the middle of the night, in a snowstorm, or in the rain, on a weekend. And those folks that are trained to that level are not working, they're not coming out
Right.
for us immediately. We're the ones that get called, and oftentimes it's because somebody's in crisis. And a lot of those people don't want to, or are not in a position to deal with somebody in crisis, because they're often very violent.
Yeah,
So-
wow.
And I should have mentioned one other thing about the comfort dog that we're talking about is that dog won't go into a situation where somebody's in crisis.
Right.
And the reason being that dog is trained to be very mellow and, calm people down. You can't bring a dog like that into a situation where somebody's already in crisis and violent, and the dog's gonna get injured. So the dog won't be available for situations like that. Now, a lot of people don't understand that, to be honest. I probably didn't understand the extent of it until I started talking to those people and they're, you just can't have a dog coming in during that time.
I have one more question for you. Does, your department do any type of training for citizen training for handguns or anything like that? Or?
No, so, what- we actually talked about this a few months ago. So the school, not the school, Maine Meeting Adult Education has done a program on gun safety. They also do a women's gun safety program as well. And there has been some controversy for various reasons lately that the school doesn't want to have that training as under their auspices. So what we did this year was we had the person that runs it through their meeting come to the public safety building, and they ran the training out of there. Liability, if we were to bring people to the range, would probably be fairly high. So that would be an issue for us.
Lisbon, for a small fee, has a real firing range and does a really good job on their training. I went through their training. It was 8 hours.
Yeah.
And then you have to answer the questions. And believe me, I beat my husband. But we both did it, and it's $65 a year if you want to go there and shoot, and they do good training.
There are people and organizations that offer it. It's just, we have been concerned about the actual going to the range, shooting if somebody gets injured. So,
Thanks. Final question, maybe? I know the workforce out there is very competitive. How do you feel you stand when you compare it to the county, to Brunswick, to other areas? Do you feel you're in a good position in terms of wages and benefits?
we're in contract
You're laughing.
negotiations. Well, we're in contract negotiations right now.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what the town manager was working to say or not say.
You can say what the current, you know. Or hope we can change it, but you can say the current.
I mean, and I'm not asking for numbers or anything like that. Just how comfortable are you that you're offering something that's reasonably competitive?
We're a little behind on pay right now. And if we can come to an agreement, which hopefully we're near with the union right now, I think we will be more than competitive. As far as the other pieces to it, I think we offer more training. We had an officer from across the bridge from Brunswick about a year ago. And she has been like, this is amazing. You know, I'm so happy that we're getting this training over here and so forth. So it goes back to why I think I can get people in the door, I can show them a good place to work, relatively calm, quiet town, relatively, and you know, people will be happy here. It's just, it's a matter of just keeping our pay up. Unfortunately, Loyalty left the building a number of years ago. We have this talk all the time because I used to work in Brunswick, and in the 90s, we weren't always the highest paid PD. Even in the 2000s, we weren't. But everybody's like, well, this is where I work, this is where I'll stay. Nowadays, a lot of the younger people, officers want, you know, well, they're making $1 more, they're making 50 cents more. There's a lot more willingness, maybe I should just put it that way, a lot more willingness on people to just move down from PD to PD. The issue we have with the sheriff's office is a lot of younger officers, my son included, like the idea of the sheriff's office have to take home car. And they really like the fact that they can sign on from their home and just go right back to the house at the end of their shift. Not that I'd hire my son, no offense against him, but I don't need every time I tell the officers to do something, have one guy in the back room going, Dad, come on, I don't want to do that, you know, that'd be awesome. But yeah, so
Although isn't the county a bit of a different situation in as much as they've got such a large territory?
Yeah.
It makes more sense to have them have one versus.
oh yeah, no, it makes sense, but a lot of the, you know, the younger people just like the idea, that's cool, I get my own car, I take it home, nobody else is driving it, nobody's changing my seat or my radio stations all the time, just, yeah.
Sorry, that was more than one question, sorry.
No, but I think we're competitive. I think we're about to be more than competitive with that building, and that's why we have the extra money to, I think, really It'll be good. So,
Was it Alice who taught the class?
I'm sorry,
Was
what?
it Alice who taught the class or was it someone else that took the class?
It was a woman, yes,
Alice, Dean, and
yeah, yeah,
it's really good. Is that something we're gonna continue doing?
I hope to. Now, here's the issue though, that we would have to discuss, or I need to talk, with the town manager about using a public safety building for something that is probably making money. Money making venture, you know, if we allow it for somebody who's a private entity making money, then we have opened up a door for a lot of other entities that are like, hey, we'd like to use your training. And yeah, general purpose is obviously for town.
Alice does a lot of free training at the Lisbon Gun Club for a women's group there every month. She does some kind of training, so that's free if you're a member of that club.
Yeah,
So I don't know about that, but she really is a good instructor. I think when they're meeting stuff,
they're talking about stopping. It was kind of a proactive when they reached out to us to say, we can see where this is going. We use your building. And we were good with it, but we will have to discuss this because it's a slippery slope if we start letting private entities come into the public safety building. And then the wear and tear and everything else that would come with it.
I'm just thinking of other places where they could go.
Yeah, yeah, we were trying to think of that this fall, trying to find somewhere local because we would like, trust me, we would love to have more people, especially in our area, trained. You know, if you're trained, you're less dangerous, you feel more comfortable. It's good all the way around. All right, thank you very much.
We'll take a 5-minute break and we'll come back to hear the wonderful world of the fire department.
All right, Chris McGowan, Fire and EMS Chief. I also have Nicole St. Pierre, who's our new lead promoted deputy. She's gonna tag along. So our staff, myself, Deputy Chief St. Pierre, we have 8 full-time personnel, 35 to 40 per diems. We range around 35 to 40, it fluctuates. 3 college living students in schools in session. They may be there, they may not. And then we have 1 community paramedic. We also have 2 dogs. So much like the comfort dogs you heard about PD, they're not official dogs, but Deputy has the part of MSARD, which is Maine Search and Rescue. She usually brings one of her dogs that stays in her office, and my Boston Terrier made it with my French Bulldog last year, and I was outvoted. His name's Brutus, and he usually snores under my desk all day. But like Chief Hagan said, we've had some. I know a lot of fire personnel. We've had some people go down to the IFF Center for Excellence in Maryland to get mental health help, and one of the biggest things they recommend coming back is a dog that you can bring to the station, and they're starting to push that for the first responders and just that comforting aspect. So we've had dogs in there for years, and we've seen the difference in people, the calm effect. So I had to throw them in the staff because they're there every day. 2024, our call volume. So you'll see that we went up 2,284 calls. I mean, not up that much. That's what our total was. But I want to point your attention out to our EMS totals. 1,632 EMS calls. However, 358 of those were community paramedic visits for last year. So I'm going to explain the community paramedic position for those of you on the finance committee that may not have heard it yet. But our actual 911 ambulance calls was 1,274. And we haven't been that low since 2021. And that has a lot to do with our community paramedic program and the preemptive stuff that they're going out there and doing, which I'm going to explain in a few minutes. So technically our call volume is up, but the 911 responses is down, especially in the EMS side, which is good news to hear, because those numbers are super important for our community risk reduction and the community paramedicine program. The next slide is revenues. I quickly like to share our revenues. The ones in blue are because we were getting paid from Northeast for mutual aid Bodenham. And that was about 85,000 a year, 50,000 a year, some years. That's why those revenue totals are so high. But we're no longer doing that. But last year, you can see it was still 552 without that mutual aid revenue. So I just checked, it's actually, we're recommending 511,000 is what was in there, which is up from 475 last year in our total revenues, which includes permits, some miscellaneous revenue, ambulance transport, obviously. So we added some money in the ambulance transport because we're seeing some good reimbursements. So staffing. So in this budget, we're recommending to hire our community paramedic full time as part of our staff. The last 2 years, this has been a grant funded position. For those of you that don't know what a community paramedic is, raise your hand if you don't know what that function is. Oh, perfect. So essentially, the staff person there. When we started this 2 years ago, there were 17 places in Maine that had a community paramedic. And I would say 14 or so were private companies, and there were a few municipalities that did it. The problem is to run this program, a lot of places were using their ambulance personnel and saying, hey, you go do this community paramedic stuff today, meet with John Smith at his house, but they were too busy on the ambulance calls, so it never got done. Where we, since this was grant funded, have a dedicated person that comes in. Her name's Liz, I'm gonna say it a bunch of times, and her only job is community paramedicine. So what they do is they work with the hospital, and they work with primary care physicians to go into people's houses, do preventive care. And you can see they do everything from COVID testing to EKG monitoring, blood draws, safety evaluations, med reconciliations, vital signs. So what this does is, say we have a patient that we've gone through 3 times in 2 weeks. Well, they'll call Liz and say, hey, Liz, just so you know, we've been to, 10 Water Street 3 times in the last month. Liz will call the primary care physician, get a referral, go visit that person, find out why they're calling the ambulance. Could be a medication issue, could be a post-op issue, could be a mental health issue. And she works with them to get the resources they need. But she has to work under a doctor. So everything has to come through a doctor's referral or the hospital. The hospital could discharge somebody and say, hey, we started them on Lasix.
we want you to go back the next day and listen to lung sounds to make sure they don't have fluid backup from their new medication. So you were talking about mental health problems earlier, I think Ruth brought it up, and if you look at the numbers, of her 358, or actually those numbers, 500 since January, 183 of those are assistance with local resources. That is simply just getting them the help they need. Maybe it's Sweetser, maybe it's, they need a nursing home placement. Maybe, it's help getting into Maine vets homes. Maybe it's just getting the right doctor to see you at the right place at the right time, because people just don't know who to call. And the healthcare system is so big that they get the runaround and they don't know what to say or advocate for themselves. And Liz spends time advocating for themselves, advocating for them. She had one example where this elderly person was having problems with falls at the house, and it was because they were on a second story and they had to navigate stairs. Liz got looking at their income to try to find a better apartment. Come to find out, the lady was getting $800 in Social Security, but she was supposed to be getting $1,800 in Social Security.
Oh, God.
Right, that's a huge change for somebody in that position.
Right.
The Social Security Administration back paid her 6 months, started paying her the $1,800, and Liz found her a nice apartment in Brunswick, that's first floor. And all it was because she knew how to make those phone calls when this elderly lady had no idea how to. That's just one example. Meals on Wheels for people, home heating fuel assistance, rodent pest control in some cases, right? Pretty much, if they need help of any sort, we can get a referral, and that's what Liz does. And based on our EMS numbers, our 911 calls have gone down. And I contribute a lot of that to this program. It's starting to get some recognition statewide. I was at the fire marshal's office doing a presentation a couple weeks ago. I got to meet with Lauderdale city manager this week. I've been to Freeport and Cumberland to kind of, once they show off this program, but to answer their questions. But we're pretty proud of it. So we're recommending to put that in the budget full-time, in this budget. Any questions on, I'm sure I'm gonna have.
Are there any self-referrals? I mean, so it's.
Yes and no,
that seems
they can
circuitous.
call their primary care physician
Okay,
and say, hey, I want this program. So we have brochures made up, we have Facebook, we have on the webpage. We had a voting intern help us design all that. So some of the stuff I want to do a little bit more of is the outreach to the people, maybe come up with some sort of newsletter we can just mail out, do a mailer of some sort. But you have to go through a doctor. We can't just show up at your house and say, hey, I'm here to help. It has to go through a referral. However, that gets us into the home. And even after we're done the medical stuff, there's sometimes some community risk reduction fire stuff that we do, like install smoke detectors. Hey, you have no smoke detectors in your house. We're gonna get you some smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors, or there's all kinds of things that once we're in the home and the benefit of having one person do this is they establish a relationship, right? And she convinced one guy to go to AA and she brought him to some appointments and then worked with the family to arrange transportation because he just needed that push, right?
Yeah, how do you deal with serious issues like traumatic brain injury or someone has a stroke?
Well, so
How
this,
do you assess that and
Yeah.
get them to the right place at the right time?
so this is not in place of 911.
Right.
So if there's a 911 call, she cannot go do this. This is all stuff, hopefully before you ever call 911. A lot of the post-op stuff is done through home health nurse and home health nurse program. And we're not really home health nurses. So a lot of that post-op care is done by a nurse.
No, I'm not asking,
but-
see, I understand the post-op.
Yeah.
But I'm worried about, I'm just curious to know how you deal with
Oh.
someone who falls and has a serious traumatic brain injury or a
Oh,
stroke.
911.
You call 911, but
Yes.
who comes out?
The ambulance.
The ambulance.
This is outside of the ambulance. So this is the, hopefully identify reasons why you might have a stroke and fix those before you have them. Medication problems.
I feel the burden, but I'm just wondering, like,
The
do you
ambulance
have
does.
enough staff? Do you have enough EMTs? Well,
Yeah,
trained
so-
to deal with these very critical issues.
So we run 4 people every day. So 2 of those staff members are full-timers and then the other 2 are part-timers. Then you have myself and Deputy St. Pierre who went on a call today together. And then we also have Brunswick right next door. We have Bath and we have Lisbon, so we all utilize these resources together. In a given year, we may have to call in an ambulance from out of town about 20 times. Out of those 1,200 EMS emergencies, 20 to 25, we have to bring in extra help because we're too busy. So,
I should think, I truly support this program, because just the sounds of that, knowing how you've been working with them for the last 2 years. Having said that, when she or he goes to the house to do an assessment and stuff, Would that help? Because right now to get in with the physician, it's difficult. If this person made the call or said, look, this person needs help and they need it pretty much now, would that help?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
she does.
Yeah. That's
And
what,
she gets them to the right positions.
yeah,
Sometimes their primary care isn't the one they need.
right,
To work with the primary care to get the right referrals,
right,
to get to the right place, because she knows how to talk the lingo
right.
and navigate the healthcare system.
See, that's a benefit right there.
Yeah, the people just don't know what to do.
Right.
183 of those, is just simply, here's where you need to go, I'll get that set up for you. And then she goes to another patient. So, any other questions about the community paramedic program? All right. Regular expenditure, changes, so obviously the payroll nearly increases that they, and the CP position, so you'll see some payroll changes. Professional service line, you'll see an increase there, because I increased our EMS billing revenue. So we use a billing company, and we charge 6% of what we collect. So if we expect to collect more, I'll have to spend more in that line. So that's where, because we contract that out. Uniforms, I increased by 4,000, mainly to pay for winter gear that we've never actually bought. Right now, if they go to a car accident and they're directing traffic, they wear their turnout coat, which is their firefighting coat with a traffic vest. I want to limit their exposure to their turnout coats because of obviously cancer carcinogens that are in it, even though we wash them, PFAS, all the stuff that come with wearing that gear. The main increase is to pay for these winter jackets that also serve as traffic vests. They're like 300 a piece. We got 10 full timers. And get some winter hats and some gloves, but we really haven't done winter outfitting of our crews, and they could be outside for hours on end. So that's really the biggest increase there. I know Bill asked about PD's uniform. We don't have an allowance, so essentially I have an overall uniform budget, and when somebody needs something, they come to me or a deputy, and we say, oh yeah, you definitely need blue boots, and I'll go ahead and order them. And we also have to outfit all of our per diems, and we have 50 of those or 40 of those, so they need t-shirts. They might need some sweatshirts. We'll do maybe a pair of pants if they don't have a place for that, another means to pay it for them. So we got a lot of people to outfit, but that's the biggest reason for the increase was the winter gear. Leases and licenses, 2 of our striker stretchers, they're $60,000 units, are out of their warranty. So we purchased a preventive maintenance contract, the striker. Come in once a year and do PM. The cost for them to come fix it is way more expensive if you don't have the PM program. So that's where that 6,000 is. Vehicle maintenance. So I added 15,000 purely based on what we spent the last 3 years, and we've gone over budget in this line the last 3 years. I wouldn't say our fleet is aging, as in we have old equipment, but our ladder is now 13 years old. Right, we're starting to hit we have one engine that's 10 years old. So we're starting to hit those maintenance costs. We've gone away from the 4 dealerships and we're using a local place. That's been a lot better in my opinion to work with. They get our stuff in quick, they do a good job, and they're not as pricey. But that's a line item that I've gone over with every year. The high powered vehicle maintenance, like if I lose a training, I gotta replace it, right? If something breaks, I can't not fix it. They're emergency vehicles. My hands are kind of tied sometimes when I have to overspend that line because I need the trucks on the road. But we do a lot of PM. We do a lot of preventive maintenance as well. Every truck gets a thorough checkup every year, beyond just an inspection, to hopefully cut down the costs. Training, we added 2,000 training. There's a couple reasons. One being we held an advanced cardiac life support class this summer, and that was, cost us about $2,500. We want to do one every year. They're called alphabet soup classes, but PALS is pediatric advanced life support. PHTLS is pre-hospital trauma life support. We want to get back into a system where we're bringing those in every year for our EMS folks. But the other thing is, you probably heard on the news or in the paper, the OSHA regulations that they're talking about coming out with. And that's going to have a huge impact on the fire service. And their new standards that we're going to have to adhere to. They're in the commenting period. I don't know, they might be out of commenting now. But they're going to require some trainings. For instance, any chief officer has to have fire officer 3. I have it, but I would have to send Deputy St. Pierre to get that. That's $1,000 per person class. Every officer you have in the department has to have fire officer 1 and 2. That's a $300 or $400 class. And then all your firefighters have to have trainings beyond, then it goes into doctors and physicals and, but a big piece of the OSHA stuff is the training. So I just wanna make sure we have enough money to train our folks. And kind of stay ahead of these regulations rather than scrambling. The way it's designed is there's certain regulations you'll have 6 months to adhere to, then there's certain ones you have a year, and there's certain ones I think they give you up to 2 years to get all on board. So I really just want to get ahead of it. So if it does, when it does come out, we're not scrambling to track down training. Air pack maintenance. Our air packs are old. I'll talk about that in capital. I'm down to 1 spare pack right now. I have it in the budget to do air packs in the capital, so I'm trying not to fix them as they break, but I can't go without our air packs. And we're down to 1 spare. We usually run 4 to 5 spares. So I'm trying not to fix stuff if it's expensive, because if we're replacing them, I don't want to put money into it. But I'm gonna have to fix at least 1 or 2 because we need spare air packs. So that was an increase in that line. And then physicals, I just added 1,000 based on OSHA as well, and what we've been spending for physicals. That's it as far as changes to my expenditure budget. Capital, our biggest project is air packs. 2 years ago, we did the balls. The balls were expiring. We replaced all the SCBA balls. So that's the tank you wear on your back. With that, there's an air pack that it fits into, and the mask and the regulator. Those are $6,800 a piece, and we have 31 of them. So the cost to replace those with the face pieces, we need 60 face pieces. Every employee gets their own because it has to fit their face and be fitted. Then we keep some spares. And then the RIP pack is the rapid intervention pack. That all comes out to about $238,000 to replace all the air packs. We could have done it 2 years ago with the bottles, but we decided to split the costs over a couple of years rather than doing it all 1 year, just to help out the budget. Car one's my vehicle. It's a 2015 Explorer with 109,000 miles. We've put this off the last 2 years. We've pushed it down the road a couple times. The vehicle itself is around 60 with about same as PD, $15,000 to light it, outfit it, all that kind of stuff. We're looking at like a Tahoe or Expedition. Mainly the one reason is we like to haul a boat with some of these vehicles, but our service truck will not pass inspection. So we're gonna lose 1 vehicle that can tow the boat. And this year that truck was out of service and we actually didn't have a vehicle to tow the boat when we had a boat call. And it's just more room for command boards. If you look at any fire command vehicle, they open up the back hatch and they got a big accountability system with tags and radios. So that would go in the back of this vehicle as well. The other 2 capital is engine 1 pump repair. We repacked the pump a couple times. The other day we were on a call with the pump running, we need 200 gallons, which is a 1,000 gallon tank. We leaked almost a quarter of it out while we were just sitting at a call. We've asked if we can replace it again or fix it again, but the answer was yeah, but you're just gonna fix it again and again and again. So to completely redo that pump is about $30,000. We got the quote from the people that do our pump testing. So that's a complete overhaul of engine 1's pump. And then the other expenditure item is, if you remember a couple of years ago, we're trying to shift away from our extrication tools, which is what the people call the jaws of life. There's really 3 sets of tools. There's a cutter, a spreader, and then there's a ram, which is a hydraulic ram that can push a dash off somebody if they're stuck in a vehicle. Currently, the hydraulic ones run a gas-powered pump with hoses, and then the hoses connect to the tool. So you have to pick up the pump, pick up the tool, go down the ditch, go get the hoses, hook it all up. Runs off gas. We're switching to the electric battery powered ones, which we've done with some of our other equipment like fans. So 2 years ago, we bought the spreader, battery powered spreader. So this year we're looking to buy the cutter and then the ram. So we have a full set of battery powered tools. And that's all contained in 1 unit, no cords, no gas, no pumps. And you'll see a lot of places are switching to those. They're much more efficient, much more easy to handle, and they're easier to use. That's my capital. That's my expenditures. That's it. Well,
Give the good news on the ISO rating.
yeah, so has everybody heard of the ISO rating? So it's an independent insurance agency. They come in every 8 to 10 years and they do a complete audit of your fire department. And that goes from everything to how much personnel you have, the hours they work, how many trucks you have, how new they are, how much water they carry, how much water supply you have, how much training you do. They also get into the water district and they get their capacity for hydrants and water lines. They get into your training program, they get into your inspections, your community risk reduction. They put it all in a point system and they give you a grade. And it's used to kind of adjust house insurance prices based on your fire department's grade. So it's a 1 to 10 score, 1 being the highest, 10 being the lowest. Topsham scored a 2, which is phenomenal.
Yay.
Yeah, that's a lot to do with our training, our inspections, and the equipment that the town's invested in the last 10 years. There's only 1 department or 2, don't quote me, that have a 1 in the state, and most of your full-time departments are around a 3 or a 4. And then all your volunteer departments, it's typically around 7 or 8. So 2 is a really good rating. But it has to do with everything that the town has done to support us and our mission, really. So that was good news. That was coming through a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's quite a process. Question over there, so Jeff.
Yeah, I guess your EMS elections were about $500,000 a year. That sound about right?
Our what?
Your EMS revenue.
Yes,
Okay, and your billing goes through an outside third
Yes.
party.
correct.
Does some of that stuff have to be written off as uncollectible?
Yes, we do that every year.
Is that a big problem or is it minimal?
Since we do it every year, it's not a huge deal. What was last year, Kathy? 50,000? About 50,000 was uncollected.
Uninsured
So
people.
about 10%.
Yeah.
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 So if I need an ambulance tonight, okay, and they come and they cart me off to somewhere. I guess somewhere along that process, they're gonna get personal information and all that sort of
We
thing.
get it from the hospital.
And for billing purposes, this third party, if I have insurance, I guess, they're gonna bill the insurance company.
They do.
Otherwise, they're gonna bill me directly, right?
Correct. So they grab the information that the hospital gives us. And on that hospital sheet has your primary insurance, your secondary insurance, if you're self-insured or self-pay, they call it. And we do our report, we attach that hospital sheet to the report, and the billing company just pulls it off our report system. And then they bill accordingly.
Any idea how long they'll carry an account until they write it off?
3 years, Kathy? 2?
That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, about 3 years. We wait about 3 years till we write it off. But instead of waiting 3 years and writing off 3 years worth, we just do it every year. We drop off that 3rd year,
Sure.
of uncollectibles.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Where are we at with the new turnout gear regulations? That on hold or gone away or,
Our turnout gear, we've been buying some,
they want to change the standard to something else? It's
that's part of the OSHA,
yeah,
which I don't know where that's gonna go.
no word on
So
that.
the thing with the OSHA, I'm paying close attention to it. I got a legislative meeting this Thursday. I do one with the ambulances every week right now. If it goes through as proposed, it's gonna cripple a lot of the smaller departments.
Correct.
Topsham's not in bad shape. I mean, we'll adjust. It's some minor things like I proposed tonight that we start looking at. But we're not gonna have to completely overhaul what we do. It's the towns around us that will, and who's gonna have to pick up the slack, right? Or they're gonna look to pick up the slack. Those are the people that I'm more worried about. But yeah, I think, Mike, that's part of those OSHA regulations is that. And there's a lot of physical doctor, appointments that places aren't doing right now, the bare minimum, and there's some regulations in there about, physical health too.
I don't want to talk about trying to hold off it for small departments, so. I
Yeah.
don't know where they're at with that.
I know Maine Fire Chiefs
Still
is
hearing.
fighting it pretty hard because of the impact of, there's only 29 or 32 full-time departments in Maine. So it's gonna affect a lot of people.
What I saw on the national news was it's gonna be very expensive,
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
places that aren't doing it now, it's
right?
gonna be super expensive. For us, like I said, we'll make a
And
couple minor adjustments because we're already
mandatory.
doing a lot of it.
Yeah.
But, and then they don't give you a whole lot of time to implement it.
Right,
I mean, so.
and it's mandatory, there's no question.
Well, do you think this might just sort of like wither away now that you've got the people running Washington?
I don't think so. I think there are components that might.
Yeah.
But there are components that will probably stay. Hard to tell which ones they will
Right.
reduce or retract. It might be one of those, instead of 2 years, we're gonna give you 5. But you need to get there eventually. It's really, I have really no idea where it's gonna go right now, but.
And, the manager in this one, okay, talked about a boat and a motor replacement.
Right,
I don't know anything about the motor replacement yet, so.
that's because we're doing it out of this year's money.
Capital reserve, that's what it is.
Yeah, so I can speak to that real quick. I know Mike did last night, but our boat is out of service. It's got a hole in the lower unit. We've had that hole replaced already and fixed. It's a 30-year-old motor, so, right now is a good time of the year to be out of service. But we're actively looking at getting that replaced. Instead of doing a different project, because we need to have a boat, so.
I bought that 30 years ago, but yes.
Yeah. Well, I think it was in my capital for this year, but, I mean, not this current year, the next year. But we're gonna.
Finally replace it out.
You just replacing the motor or the boat and
The
or?
whole thing, the boat's got some cracks in a lot of the welds. So we went through and looked at all the welds and the seams, a lot of them are cracked already. So it'll be something very similar though.
So,
He is,
Curiosity question. How long do you battery pack things last?
the air packs,
Yeah,
while we're breathing air,
the battery packs.
the battery pack for me.
on the extrication tools,
Yeah, when you go out, I mean, how long will they run before they have to be
they
recharged?
tell you 30 minutes, an hour. But
Very true.
I bet it's like straight work, probably 30 minutes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Of continuous straight work.
You got spare battery in the front.
Yeah, but we also have spare batteries and chargers in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but different models, this Genesis, the Palmatro, the Amicus, they all run a little bit different, little different types of batteries. But
Of course they do.
Of course.
All
You know how it works,
all
right?
proprietary content, so.
you know how that works. Some are DeWalt, some are Milwaukee,
Yeah.
some are their own. Those are these. Any other questions for me?
I have a question. We moved here from out west, and out where we were, the car dealers would very often donate to the a police car or a car for people such as you, because they got great publicity from it and big tax deduction. Have you ever thought about doing that here?
I have never seen a dealership in Maine do that.
I don't think they can.
Yeah,
They sure did out in Montana,
yeah.
Well, that was a while ago.
In all my
No.
years, I don't think I've ever,
4 years ago.
I don't think I've ever seen it here.
We had
I've seen grants, like people have gotten grants for some vehicles, especially trucks through FEMA and stuff.
police department got Volvo at a cheap price one year.
Yeah, Volvos at a cheap price.
And that was worst case scenario with the Volvo.
Was that 30 years ago too, Mike?
Yeah, it could be bad. I threw one of my hands down. But yeah, 35 years. They did that in the past. It didn't work out.
I don't know, I've been around a while, I haven't heard of this Volvo police. cruiser.
I have one.
I'm sure you did.
No, I got a picture.
Well, maybe we can get Adam Lead offer some EVs again.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you, and good job with the rating.
Thank you.
Well, we kept you late last night, so tonight we're gonna get you out a little early. And, tomorrow night, I think probably the leftovers aren't gonna be too great, like 2 nights later, so we won't be feeding you tomorrow night.
Oh,
What you say, bring our own.
very nice.
Bill asked a question last night as he was leaving. He wanted to know, like a chart of how many FTEs we had in total, for each department. So Kathy went and researched it, and then Jeff and I did the head count, merged it all together, and then wants that data. I'll put this over by Bill. We'll figure out how to way up. With that, we're done.
Thank you.